Hello, concerned citizens. The audio quality is a little weird this week. We had to fall back on our backup recording because technology is not infallible. You probably won't notice too much. I did. And I'll never forgive myself. Okay, let's listen to the episode. All I want to do is let these beautiful children rage, Jeff. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Cannata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens. Jeff, nature, as we've discussed a million times,
Wants to kill us?
Wants to kill us, hates us, is worthless. There's nothing good out there. Name one good thing in nature. I dare you. You might try to turn around my dog on me and say that my dog is an animal, but no, we domesticated that motherfucker.
Yeah, no nature there anymore.
All my food is processed.
I'm going to go with the new iPhone. Is that nature?
It is destroying nature. But here's the thing about nature. Here's the thing about nature. This is why nature sucks. It's not making more of the rare earth elements that we need to keep making iPhones. It wants to keep running out of the trash that I need. The earth isn't doing anything with the trash.
Yeah, give us more of that stuff. What are they making more of? Leaves? We don't need more leaves.
Let me tell you something. For every 100 million leaves nature makes, it makes like no more fucking cesium or fucking silicon. None of it. It doesn't make any of it.
It's like it doesn't even give a shit about us having iPhones.
It doesn't make any of it. It doesn't make any more of it. Come on, nature. I need more rare earth magnets from my MagSafe shit.
I need a marginally better product this year so I can throw the old one in the garbage.
My phone has 3 cameras, and let me tell you something. They're 3 garbage old cameras.
The new cameras are incrementally better.
I don't know why we're not at 7 cameras yet.
Name one thing in nature that has gotten incrementally better. You can't.
Name one thing in nature that has changed over time.
That has gotten incrementally more useful or better or adapted to its environment.
Yeah,
you can't.
Name anything in nature that adapts. I'll wait. Here's the thing, Jeff. We know that this is how we feel about nature, and we know that this is what nature is. But people keep trying to put out research that says nature is good, and I'm tired of it.
What are they saying this time, Anthony?
It's fucking garbage. Mark, no nickname Nuffer, sent this in to us on the Discord. Bless his heart. These are about daycares in Finland, which number one, I distrust anything that comes from Scandinavia. Their happiness index is too high.
Way too high. And you know why? It's probably all those. I'm sure it's all those free daycares.
They're lying when they say they're happy.
They allow parents to be away from their children for long enough. They get happy. I think that's
weird.
That's the key.
They support their own working families over there. See, that doesn't track to me, and I don't like it.
I don't make. Yeah. Again, I'm going to refer you back to the iPhone.
Listen, loving your children didn't make the iPhone. We know that. We've read Steve Jobs' biography.
In no step in the process of making an iPhone did anyone love their children.
Imagine creating a computer named Elisa and then staring at the room and daring them to say you named it after your daughter and firing anyone who did.
That's love.
That's love for computers. And that's what makes humanity successful. Finland, your fucking free daycares, your fucking geothermal heat. Geothermal heat gives you cancer. The sound from geothermal heat gives you cancer and kills cats. And we all know it. Here are the three things that kill people the most: geothermal heat, wind, solar.
Yes.
These are the deadliest things on the planet.
The top killers. They kill birds. They kill people, not necessarily in that order.
No,
but usually in the same day. Yeah.
So Finland, they've got all their kids.
Yeah.
In these,
everyone's happy
in these daycares.
None of those kids are in sweatshops making iPhones for us. None of them.
Seems like a waste. 3, 4, and 5-year-old children at these daycares, right? And they took like 10 different daycares, I believe, here in this city. And what they did was they took a look at the healthiness of children, which, again, come on, they either live or they don't.
A healthy child is so much work.
If children were valuable, we wouldn't be able to make one every 9 months.
Good point, man. You know how often a new iPhone is made? Once a year.
Once a year. Children are less valuable than iPhones. You heard it here first.
QED.
So they were looking at the healthiness of children in city areas versus in rural areas, children who have grown up in nature. We've seen a couple studies on this before that children who grow up in less urban areas tend to have fewer allergies. They tend to have less things like asthma, stuff like that. Yeah. And so these people in Finland at the University of Helsinki were like, well, let's just quantify this. We don't know that. Well, first of all, we don't know that this relationship is causal. Let's do a little more look into that. But let's also see how much nature is nature. So what they did was they took these daycares of these children. And they said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure these kids get served all the same meals for the next month. We're going to make sure that the meals all come from the same place. We're going to make sure that they have the same amount of recreational time during the day. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave a few of these daycares alone. We're not going to change them. And they're urban daycares the way you would imagine them. There's a lot of mulch, a lot of gravel, a lot of concrete. You know what I mean? They're just city daycares. Yeah. They've got an outdoor playground. You know, they've got the foam on the floor. And then they're like, here's what we're going to do for the next group of daycares. We're going to take these kids, instead of bringing them out to this playground, we're going to take them out. We're going to bus them out into nature for an hour a day. And that's going to be their recess, right?
Just leave them there and hope they can find their way home.
And tell them, listen, it fucking rises in the east and sets in the west. Good luck.
Good luck.
We're 30 clicks northeast.
Here's a juice box. Good luck.
What's a click? What's the west? And then the final section of daycares, they ripped out all of that mulch and concrete and whatever, and they laid down just some like ground cover of like moss and heather and blueberries and blueberry grass and like all these plants, and that's what they put in their playgrounds.
I imagine the Finns made a goddamn gorgeous playground. I bet they made a nature fucking paradise. I bet they just. I'm
looking at it, Jeff. Actually, you would picture it being like some sort of beautiful A-frame thing with like vines everywhere, and
not that.
It's not. It's a little. I'm not going to say it will be disappointing in accordance, in comparison to your mental image, but it's a very nice playground. Mm-hmm. They laid in the grass and stuff. It's nice.
Okay. All right.
So here's something interesting. Within just a few weeks, 28 days. That's enough time for a zombie outbreak. It's also
yeah. So you're saying 28 days later, what happened?
28 days later, it all looked like 28 days later, there was a bunch of found footage looking stuff. So researchers all along the way tested the microbiome of their skin and gut of these kids all along the way.
Yeah.
And what they found is the children who regularly played in green spaces had increased diversity in their skin and gut bacteria and got healthier over just a period of a month. And it didn't matter whether these kids were bussed out into real nature or just played on the playground where the carefully selected plants and ground cover had been added. These kids got healthier immediately.
You just need to be in or near nature. It doesn't even matter what kind of nature. If like a potted plant, does that work? Just sniff a potted plant a few times a day? No? Is that enough?
Was there a cartoon or a comic? I remember it's an image that I remember so vividly. And I don't know where I got it from, Jeff, but people in spacesuits, but their pods in the back, instead of being oxygen, just have a plant in it.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know where that's from, but I remember seeing it, whether it was just an illustration or something, but it's a really strong image to me. And this is kind of like this, But
Anthony, can I tell you, this is extraordinarily bad news for me. Because there's a global pandemic right now and my kids are rarely outside. And B, because, I don't know, about a year ago, we put in artificial grass in my backyard.
I was just about to say, but you have a backyard.
Yeah, we do have a backyard. We had a backyard and I don't know if you're aware of exactly the climate I'm living in. You've moved a little bit closer and are experiencing it, but it's about 117 in the summertime. We're in smack dab in the end of October right now, and it's still, 85, 90 degrees here. That's called the fall. So it's a battle to keep grass alive. So my wife and I just threw in the towel on that whole process and decided to go with the artificial grass. It's been great. It's been awesome because the grass is comfortable and we got a swing set in the backyard and we got the artificial grass and there's no dirt patches. Our grass had like dirt patches because it was dying off. It was yellow. It was hard and crusty. It was hard. We watered the shit out of it and spent a fortune in water bill. Well, we went artificial grass, Anthony, and now you're telling me what you're telling me is I'm a bad parent, I guess, for that.
That is what I was trying to get at in a roundabout way, is that I think you're a bad parent, but
so many ways.
But here's the thing, though, Jeff. If you look at previous research that's been done on these kids who live in more rural areas who have fewer cases of asthma and allergies, just living within 300 meters or 200, 100 meters, like the closer you can get to a park or a natural green area, the healthier
all those things that have been closed down. All those things that have been closed.
But listen, even if they're closed, right? What I'm saying is if you're within 300 meters of it, you're still going to get benefits. If you're within 200 meters of it, you're still going to get benefits because microbiomes, bacteria don't care if the park is closed. That's why the park is closed, right? Because the virus doesn't know, right? Yeah. But also good bacteria doesn't know either. So just being closer to nature and closer to greenery can give you more of those health effects.
Right.
Just having a little garden, making a little garden can make a huge difference.
I refer you back to the 117 in the summer part. Makes gardening difficult, but I think this is really valuable information. And honestly, my wife and I have talked at length, and as I think a lot of people have in this post-COVID world where we can all work from home or we all have to work from home to a large extent. This idea of, I love the city. I love being in a big city. I love the access to culture and the fact that there are great restaurants and there are wonderful things all around. There are things to experience and enjoy. But in this COVID world where I'm not enjoying any of those things, I'm not getting the benefits of living near that stuff. We've talked at length about are we just kind of doing our kids a disservice by living in a urban environment? Would it be better to go someplace where we could afford to have some grass and some trees and some fresh air? I don't know.
And you're not alone in that. There have been a lot of people. There's been some preliminary data about this during COVID, where people, a lot of offices and a lot of schools, a lot of jobs are saying, "Hey, when this ends, you can keep working from home. Like a lot of jobs doing that, because a lot of businesses are finding that like productivity isn't going down. It's actually going up a little bit. Now there are some downsides to that we can touch on as well, but productivity is actually going up. People are getting more work done. And they're also, businesses are saving so much money, because if you think about it, it's like, well, if we host a retreat 2 or 3 times a year, or like once a month where everybody has to go into the office, we don't need to own a giant office building. And that cuts down on so much of the cost of running a business. And so a lot of people, particularly in industries, information technology and these sort of white collar industries, are like, well, if I can make the same money working for the same company and move to a cabin in the middle of nowhere,
right?
Why wouldn't I just do this? And this is something that we've talked about before, where it's like teleportation is going to fuck the economy,
right?
But this is sort of like, businesses have been trying to keep this from happening too, and cities have been trying to keep this from happening too, because a lot of money is tied up in infrastructure and people just living there, people just wanting to live there. But like, if you can make $100,000, which is like New York money, but live in a cabin in Wyoming,
right?
Fuck, dude.
Right.
If you, and you're happy with the cabin
goes much
Wyoming,
farther.
and you're happy with the cabin Wyoming lifestyle, shit, and it's healthier and it's better for you, and like, great, do it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we've thought about a lot, and I think, you know, it's a complicated thing, because you never know, are we going to come out the other end of this and you're going to miss having that city life? But I do think that there's something to this idea of being closer to nature, being, I've been watching these videos every night just to sort of calm my mind. This sort of spiritual guy, this English dude named John Butler does these videos. He's like in his upper 80s, very, very frail, very soft spoken. He talks like this, and it's very soothing. But all of his videos are him standing. He was an old farmer. He was a farmer for like 60 years. And he basically is in the middle of nowhere in the UK, you know, on this beautiful rolling hills with ducks and sheep and shit walking around. And I watch these videos, and it calms me just seeing a digital representation of it. And I fantasize about just being able to like sit by a bubbling brook, you know, just kind of like hang out in nature for a little while, especially in these days where I'm just cooped up in the house for 9 months, you know, in COVID. But there's something very romantic about that notion. And I do think it makes us healthier. This science clearly confirms that.
Yeah.
But I do think even mentally it makes us feel healthier, right?
Yeah. I mean, there has been some research into that too, that says getting into nature, especially as a child, is linked to better mental health in adulthood. Now this was a study that came out last year, in May, from the Barcelona Institute of Global Health. And they found that, childhood experiences, childhoods with fewer experiences in nature and contact with the natural world are associated with increased feelings of nervousness and depression in adulthood. So they found that it's kind of important, whether it's just, you know, and it doesn't have to be hiking in national park or anything like that. It can be just playing in a backyard, having a tree. You know what I mean? Like, there just needs to be a little bit of that there. There's also been some preliminary research that says that we sort of view the way humans are wired to view the color green as a little different. It's a calming, neutral color to us. Like, we think of black, white, gray as neutral colors, but green is actually, to the human mind, kind of a neutral color. That's why, like, a lot of stuff at Disney parks that they don't want you to see, they have this type of green that they paint everything that they don't want you to look at, even if it's not hidden. Because
that's why green screens work.
That's exactly why green screens work. It's just a suggestion to your mind to put something else there in the frame. Nothing digital happens. That's what's crazy about the green screen. It's called theater of the mind. Look it up, read a book.
You ever see that video? You ever see that video where all the people are passing a ball back and forth, and then that guy in that full green screen suit walks in and moves his arms all around, and you can't see it. You can't see it because your brain is like that.
And then the gorilla goes by with the basketball. Yeah, I've seen that video. There's a link between residential greenness during childhood and a lower risk of depressive symptoms as an adult. Yeah, so I mean, nature is good. We talk about this all the time.
Good.
Nature is good. As much as we fuck around, we have removed ourselves from the animal part of ourselves, but that does not mean, I mean, we've tried to do it mentally, but that does not mean all of our systems are not wired that way to a certain extent. And you know, they do say that we have to take the results of this study with a little bit of a grain of salt. They do want to do some more research. Because they can't really account for what the children were doing outside of daycare hours. You know what I mean? But they do believe they do believe that they saw enough of a delta there to be like, okay, it's not just a rounding error or something like that. But yeah, they're just like, look, it would be best. One of the environmentalists who ran this study, the ecologist who ran this study, was like, it would be best if children could play in puddles and everyone could dig in organic soil.
In virtual reality, ... in virtual reality. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I do have a virtual reality thing that lets you like just sit on various camping vistas. It's very good. I don't know if you've tried, I don't know which one it is, but you probably have it. You've tried all the VR stuff, but there's like one that's like a very Northern California, like sitting on a cliff in a forest and then there's like a desert one, and then there's like a beachside one. And you just kind of tap to change which one you're at, or like turn on music or change the time of day. And I should just go outside.
Yeah, but you don't have to, because in that one you can be sitting in this vista and you can look all around and see nature, and then laser beams can come out of your fingertips. Because that's what we do. We improve on nature.
Improve on
digital
nature.
Worlds.
Phones are better than children.
We proved it. If there's one thing you should take away from
anyone can make a child.
This award-winning science podcast.
Took a genius to create the iPhone.
Is that we have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, mathematically, that children are less valuable than an iPhone.
And that's all I was trying to do. Hey, do you know what might be even less valuable than children? This podcast. But maybe you don't think so. Maybe you think the podcast is worth a little something to you. And if that's the case, why don't you head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
For as little as $1, you can support this show and get some cool stuff, access to our Discord, hanging out with other like-minded cool folks. Think of how many dollars you spend on other things that aren't this show.
Selfishly.
Yes. You're spending dollars. I bet you have spent dollars today on things.
Whoa.
I bet you've spent dollars.
J'accuse.
We could use just a couple of those. Hey, maybe 3 of those. Why not? Why not 5? You could spare some, right? Throw them our way. And we promise, listen, Anthony will use some of those dollars on phones. I will use some of those dollars on children, and we'll end up seeing which is a better use of those dollars.
The answer is the phone. But we're not just asking you to give us random amounts of money. There are things attached to those random amounts of money that you might find interesting. For $1 or more, you get access to the Discord, which is where all of the concerned citizens hang out, chat, have game nights, do all kinds of wonderful things. For $3 a month, you get bonus audio every week. Those little conversations that we're ending when the show starts, that's an entire secondary show. You get that for $3 a month or more. For $5, you get bonus video and hangouts, which we're having a hangout. But we just had one. We're now operating weeks ahead of schedule, so we had a hangout. It was great. You missed it. All the way up to things like early episodes. So come check it out. Patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. It is the only way we support the show and keep the show going. So we really appreciate you. heading over and supporting us.
Indeed. Anthony, you were in Finland. I'm going to stick with the Netherlands for this story. Finland. Well,
I wish I was in the Netherlands too.
In our mind palace, we all went to Finland. Now we're gonna head over.
I didn't even try. Let me tell you something. I didn't even try to get stoned when I was in Amsterdam, Jeff. I didn't even try, and I still.
Did you think it was too obvious, like going to the Eiffel Tower in Paris or something?
Yeah. No, I did it, but I didn't try to get like really, really but I got so stoned, more stoned than I've ever been in my life, at this coffee bar that had this ancient cat, it was like a 22-year-old cat with one eye. I swear to God, it was like emaciated, and it had grown up in this coffee house, and it like loved to get contact highs from people, and it could tell that I was really high. And so it just stared at me, waiting for me to exhale. And so just like, cause it just wanted to inhale whatever, but I wasn't even smoking anymore. I was barely smoking. I was so stoned. I just wanted to be left alone, but it looked like this old ancient one-eyed cat was sitting in front of me trying to steal my breath. And I sat there for an hour quietly panicking in a way that I had not since I was like 14 years old, when I was like, it was a nightmare. And then I had the best stroopwafel I've ever had in my life. And that's the Netherlands. Did you have a story about the Netherlands?
I mean, not anymore. Can't beat that one. Yes, this was a story that was sent to us. It was posted on our Discord in a channel called Cool Science News, which is where folks are submitting stories for the show. This was sent to us by Maker Geek. This is a story about researchers in the Netherlands at the Leiden University that are printing 3D printing on the microscopic level. And I find this to be fascinating.
I think I know what story this is, and I'm excited because it was my number 2.
Oh, rad. No, this is great. So you've done a fair amount of maker type stuff. I think you've even dabbled in 3D printing.
No, that's not the bit of the show, Jeff. The bit of the show is that I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
Oh, you're right. You don't know what any of this
3D
stuff is.
3D printing is how they make chicken nuggets, right?
Yeah, actually.
That's how KFC is making chicken nuggets now, right? Okay.
Yeah, good chicken nug. There is a sort of a benchmark that has become a thing in the maker community for any 3D printing, and it's Benchy the tugboat. It's a tiny little tugboat that these 3D printers make as it's a kind of stock 3D model.
It's basically like you print it to see it's more complex than it seems, Benchy,
right,
from a geometric level. And so a 3D printer has to do a very good, solid, like high detailed, high frequency print to get Benchy to come out clear.
And the reason for that is Benchy, if you can imagine it, it's a little tugboat. It's got the bottom of the ship that sits in the water. And then it's got this little cabin that sits on top that has an interior, right? It has some arches, and you can look inside this little cabin. So that's what makes it complex. Is there is an interior space. It's not just one sort of big blocky shape. It's more subtle than that, and it's more sophisticated.
It's gotta cleanly print all of that stuff without any schmutz or mess or distortion.
Exactly. Well, these researchers at Leiden University have 3D printed their version of Benchy. They have done it at a scale that is unprecedented. This is the smallest boat that human beings have ever witnessed. It is 30 micrometers in length, which is about a third the size of the length of a human hair.
Wow.
So this is full on Benchy with this very complex little.
You said length. Do you mean cabin? You mean like width of a human hair? Because the human hair,
not length. Yeah, the length. Sorry, the length of the boat and the width of the human hair. Yeah, so the boat's length from stern to bow to stern is
scientists got that fine hair like I have, or they got that thick mane, that Italian hair like you have?
No. It's definitely scientist hair. It's thin, it's patchy, it's mostly gone.
Okay. They got my Eastern European hair. Got it.
Right. So they have actually managed to create all of the things you need for a Benchy, this sophisticated interior of this cabin. I mean, it's not super detailed, but it literally has the archway. You can look inside it. They have taken photos of it.
Look inside it. How do you look inside it? It's micrometers.
Micrometers. Now, you would say why?
Well, what? I was going to say how first.
Okay, we can do how first.
You'd think that I would ask why, because normally I ask you why.
You're always asking why.
First thing is, why would they do this? Jeff, this is one of those times where I don't give a fuck. That boat is so small, and they done printed the tiniest boat. And so the why is interesting to me, but give me that how.
The how is really fascinating. It's a process called 2-photon polymerization. So a polymer is basically a polymer is when molecules are stuck together for some reason, right? You take something that is very, very simple, and it, through a variety of methods, combine those things into something that's a little bit more sophisticated.
And it's usually the same sort of thing repeated over and over again. So a polymer is like, it's like chains of almost the same molecule.
Yeah, well, sometimes they can be different things, but yes. So the idea here is that they are literally sticking stuff together on the microscopic level using photons. It's a laser that is shot inside a droplet. Now, here's the fucking frustrating thing about the world we live in.
Shot inside a droplet?
Yeah, we're going to get... Yeah, exactly. We're going to get back to that. But let me just go on a quick tangent here, because this is a fucking frustrating thing about the world we live in. And this is something we've talked about on the show over and over and over. So Maker Geek, who posted this story, posted to a Gizmodo article. I read the Gizmodo article. I then did a search to find out more information about this Gizmodo article, which is no more than 3 paragraphs. I searched and searched and searched to find out what the fuck this droplet is, because it seems like pretty important information. Now, the idea behind this experiment is to do some research into micro swimmers, which are little organisms. Bacteria, sperm is a micro swimmer, things that move through liquid.
I was going to make a sperm joke, and then I was like, wait a minute. Is sperm a joke, or is it real?
It's real. Micro swimmers. Yeah. You have micro swimmers. We all have micro swimmers. We can do it once every 9 months. We've established that in this episode already.
We can do it more often than an iPhone. I'll tell you that much.
That's right.
Children.
So the idea here is to investigate and research into how we can create artificial things that can move through liquids. So there is some, I think you sort of assume, maybe water. It's a droplet. It's not water. And I searched and searched and searched. And this is what to me is so goddamn frustrating, is there are numerous sites that covered this story. It's an interesting story. Physics websites, science websites, none of them actually fucking explain it. They all just sort of, honestly, it really seems to me that no one gives a shit about how this was actually done. All that matters is there's a picture of a tiny tugboat, a tiny, tiny tugboat. And there's a picture. All of them have the same picture of the microscopic tugboat. And yeah, that's pretty interesting. And it's pretty compelling. And wow, look how you can see the microscopic tugboat. But almost all of these articles, no matter where I looked, were like 2 or 3 paragraphs. Hey, they microprinted it. They used this technique, and that's it. Like, they name the technique and they regurgitate this little press release that the university put out, rather than actually explaining the science behind it. But luckily, you are listening to an award-winning science podcast.
Thank God.
So I am going to attempt to explain what none of these websites will explain. And I'm almost sure I'm going to fail, but that's not going to stop me from attempting it.
I believe in you. There's glory and value in the attempt. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. So what they did is they shot a laser in pulses into this droplet. Now,
fuck, it's been a while since we've had lasers. Man, there hasn't been enough laser science recently. I'm so glad lasers are back. Keep going.
Thank you. Lasers. They never get old.
You know what I'm saying? Where the fuck have you been in 2020, lasers, when we need you the most?
They used an actual off-the-shelf, commercially available 3D microprinter, which is pretty wild. Like,
that's a thing?
You can buy one. It's called the Photonic Professional GT NanoScribe, which is awesome. So it uses this 2PP technique, which is 2-photon polymerization. And it says they're used to print 3D structures in dip mode, which is pretty great. So it's these particles.
That's the name of Busta Rhymes' crew.
Dip mode?
Dip mode. It's my favorite episode of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Kids ask
evidently it was a fused silica that it was printed onto. It says large arrays of particles were printed onto fused silica substrates and then cleaned with isopropanol.
Okay.
The crazy thing is
like silica is that's the stuff that you get. It's a desiccant. It's the stuff that like when you open up a pair of shoes and it's got this like the silica gel, do not eat. That's silica.
Yes, exactly.
So they're printing it onto silica and then they're just cleaning it with an isopropyl alcohol.
But it's not easy. They submerged it in propylene glycol.
Propylene glycol. Yeah.
And they dipped it in isopropanol 5 times. So this is like a long process. Then this says the structures were subsequently left to dry in air. After drying, the structures were coated with a catalytic active 5 nanometer layer using a sputter coater.
Wow.
Fucking cool stuff. Like this is what the articles should all go into. Like what's a sputter coater? They don't go into it because these guys are scientists and they're just explaining what they did. The other cool thing about actually reading the abstract is, yeah, it's cool that they printed a tiny tugboat, but you know what else they printed? The fucking USS Enterprise.
You gotta print the Enterprise.
They printed a 5 nanometer USS Enterprise.
Wow.
And the idea is that these things can be propelled through liquids. They could actually move. You could have them deliver medicines through your bloodstream. They could move through substances. And the way they did that is that there is a bit of chemical on the actual tiny 3D model itself that reacts with the substance that it's inside and pushes it forward. So it's a little like propulsion system built into or onto or stacked onto the back of these tiny little micro swimmers.
It's like when you make a baking soda engine or some baking soda and vinegar engine.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. They say it's using platinum as the catalyst. Yet another thing nature refused to give us more of.
Right.
100 million leaves. But I want a fleet of tiny tugboats in USS Enterprises, nature.
Come on. What are you doing?
Where's all the platinum?
Give us more platinum, nature. I'm sick of your leaves.
For those who are wondering what propylene glycol is, it's a food additive mostly. Like it's a strengthener and emulsifier. And so all this stuff is like, what's crazy is minus the platinum, which nature refuses to give me in large quantities. This is just stuff that's around, man.
Yeah. I mean, they use an off the shelf. I'm sure it's expensive, but it's an off the shelf micro printer and stuff that is not particularly difficult to come by. And they printed a number of things. They printed this spiral shape that looks like fusilli pasta that is really effective at moving through liquid. So they're basically, iterating on what is the most effective way to move stuff through bloodstreams or
I love it.
Move tiny bacteria or particles as needed, and medicine as needed through as delivery devices through the bloodstream. And they're going to come up with a 3D printable delivery system that is highly effective. Maybe you'll even be able to.
We've messed with stuff like this before, where we've created basically essentially little single celled organisms or microorganisms that like little nano machines that we've made that are natural, sort of live out of living organic things that like we've seen the videos of them where it's like it looks like a little just like cartoon legs walking, like that right. Sort of. And we've been messing with that stuff forever, but like, making living things, you can make them with a certain amount of uniformity, but you can't make them with the same amount of uniformity that you can a tiny fucking boat that's printed from a printer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating to me that we're able to do this at all. These lasers pulse and they sort of harden in very specific points. There's actually a video you can find of them doing this. And you just see this pulsing light move over a thing, and the shape sort of slowly comes into view because it works the same principle as a plastic 3D printer that you've seen, over and over, is that it just layer upon layer until it creates the shape. Here, we're just doing it on a very, very tiny scale.
I love that. That sounds a lot like sort of the heat-based resin printers that they have now, where instead of printing up, it's sort of, they use like a heat bed and kind of keep dipping. It's really, man, this is wild. This is great. And I love it. By the way, the Photonic Professional GT2 from Nanoscribe will run you $250,000. Do you want to go and have these on a Nanoscribe?
Yeah, we're going to need more patrons, I think.
But I love stuff like this, man. And I love that 3D printing, for the last 10, 15 years, it's just been 3D printing. But then you get a 3D printer, or your friend gets a 3D printer, and you're like, well, what'd you make? And it's like, I made like a hook to hang my towels, and I made like a little Iron Man, and it's like, we're waiting. We're like, when is the time where I walk out to my living room and I hit a button and I print the thing that I need that day, right. Or I print something that's super useful. And it's just, man, every time I see a story like this, it reminds me that like, we're already there. We're already doing it, just not on the level of like me going into my living room and printing something. Like this stuff is being used at every level of every sort of like,
everywhere
in STEM.
And can you imagine a time when you go to the doctor and they're like, well, we're going to have to give you, your flu shot. Do you want it delivered, the normal way, or would you like it delivered via the Millennium Falcon, the tiny, tiny Millennium Falcon in your veins? And you'd be like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get that upgrade. I'm going to go ahead and get that upgrade and get that Millennium Falcon delivered.
At micrometers long, how are they going to verify that the Falcon's actually coursing through my veins? Do I just have to take it on their word? The word of a doctor? Eat shit. The least trustworthy people on the planet, doctors.
You know what we should do? We should use the $250,000 that we were going to use to buy the printer.
My brother's a doctor. He gave me a noogie once. Can we trust that? Anthony, no, we cannot.
You're missing this brilliant opportunity here. We take the $250,000, right? We don't buy the printer.
We
say we did, and then we just get an office, rent an office space. And get some printouts of, micron length cool objects.
Yes.
And inject people with shit and tell them that it's that, it's like, yeah, sure. You can get a flu shot at any old drugstore, but can you get it with, delivered to you from a Star Destroyer or,
you cannot. No, you cannot.
The Mad Max's car, or what do you want? Want the Batmobile? We got that.
Don't trust us. We got so many Batmobiles.
Prove that we don't.
Prove that we don't have any Batmobiles. I dare you.
Think of how much of that $250,000 we could have saved. and we could still be swindling people out of their money. It's just a win-win is what it is.
You had me at swindling people out of their money.
Which brings us to our Patreon.
No, I love this. And I think it's wonderful. And not just for things like this, like the delivery system itself. Like imagine the time in the future where like we get a prescription and print it at home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now the dark side, which we don't really have time to go into, but the dark side of all this is, people can make when it really becomes truly democratized and the prices all come down and it's anybody in their garage can do anything with 3D printing or making designer genes or DNA editing or any of that stuff. We're into for some fucked up humanity shit. We're in for some you think that COVID is bad. There's going to be some dude in his garage who's like, I made the world's worst virus and I just threw it out onto the street and now it's in the world. It's going to be bad, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, but I'm also going to have my wings and my night vision. So like 6 of 1, you know what I'm saying?
It's true.
Hey, everybody, help us buy this printer.
Or help us buy this office space that we'll tell people we have the printer.
Yeah, one or the other. Like, listen, we've got a business plan. You can't see it. You have to trust us.
The only information you need is that we need $250,000.
Buddy, you said it and you're right. Give us $250,000 or give us $1. Anything $1 or more gets you a little something. Just $1 a month gets you into the Patreon Discord community, which is a really, really lovely place. Anything above and beyond that, you get a little extra for each level that you go up. Check out more details about that at patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. We'll see you in the fucking money bin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby. We're getting that printer. Or not.